purpose of Freethought Forum is to be vigilant to the encroachment of religion into government and to educate the general public as to what a freethinker is.
My thoughts give me power.
No scholar can map them.
No hunter can trap them. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei.
Hello, my name is Hugh Henry, and this is Freethought Forum, and Carol Grosser is here to tell us about Victor Schauberger. Carol Grosser was born a rebel to prevailing thought processes in that she was born with the mark of the devil, a club foot. Although she attempted to fit into normal-bodied mainstream American thought patterns, she always felt like a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. Growing up in the 19th century self-sustaining farm, she found it extremely difficult to enter the urban culture that others were living after her childhood on the farm, where her parents lived almost exclusively on the land for the first 18 years of her life. Carol did dream of the city and expected to find wonderful thought patterns and ways of living. It only took her a few years of living in the city for her to understand that her parents were living the more economically and ecologically sound way of life. Thus, after getting a degree from an esteemed university, she realized that the true university was her first 18 years of life. Thus, when Carol was first introduced to the writings of Wendell Berry, she became very excited and ecstatic over the writings of Victor Schauberger, also a misfit, self-educated rebel against all that was believed to be scientifically correct. Raised a Lutheran, she became disillusioned with the conflict between the alleged Christianity and practiced Christianity. Nowhere in the teachings of Christ did she see war, and it was always practiced by those who alleged themselves to be Christians. So Carol decided that a new religion, if mankind must have one, needs to be Schauberger into the prevailing religious culture, or the formation of a new belief system, call it a philosophy, religion, cult, or whatever. It is time to accept Schaubergianism before the earth truly reaches the end times produced by Christianity and all other world religions. Carol, you're on.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to have this forum. I would like to introduce the viewers to Victor Schauberger.
Who's not sitting next to her.
Everyone says, well, who's Victor Schauberger? And there lies the problem. I have all these years, a degree, a Bachelor of Science degree, and I did not get any instruction in Schauberger's theories. And to me, that is totally phenomenal. And I don't understand how that happened. I challenge the academic community viewing this program to go on the website and do a search, a Google search on Victor Schauberger, and become educated and start teaching your students some very important things. Schauberger said, we only need to do one thing, and that's to concentrate on survival and survival now. He was a genius, and he believed that there are three things, actually four things, that mankind has to concentrate on it. First is water, and Mr. Reese is here as evidence of that.
Could you introduce Mr. Reese now that you've mentioned him?
Mr. Dan Reese is trained to be an electrical engineer who now concentrates on using some of the theories of Schauberger in creating good water in the hill country as well as around the world. He has installations throughout the world, and you have been studying this for 8 years,
Oh,
is that
actually
correct?
10 years, but we've had a practical installation. We first did our first one in 8 years ago and put it to the world. And it's actually the units we had to take care of problems like iron and sulfur in wells. And the vortex systems do that real well.
And you have also been active in doing something that should help all of us Americans. You have concentrated now on getting some of that oil money back, isn't that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. Doing some. I make a system that makes water from air. We're using condensation, and we also use the vortex in this process also to kill anaerobic bacteria and what have you, any kind of bacteria. And it also cleans and smooths the taste out, and we're selling these overseas. To
the desert regions, oil-rich desert regions.
Yeah.
So Schauberger wanted us to concentrate on water, forestry, energy, and in his final years, he turned his attention to agriculture. And there is a great website where you can buy tools to use in Schauberger. Now, I can't explain to you scientifically why, but Schauberger says you need to stop using any other metal in your garden tools except copper. But I think they're totally beautiful, and they can be found at a website called the lady who produces or who sells these, and one of by
BKS.
the BKS PK Pythagoras Kepler. What does the S stand for? I forgot already.
Might be Schauberger.
Schauberger.
Yeah. Anyway, they're available. We needed to I was skeptical, and it seemed to me that it was hope for mankind, Schauberger's theories. But you know, our prevailing science says that none of what he says can be so, so we either got to go with Schauberger and disprove prevailing science, or we have to go ahead and go along with the way we're doing it now and keep on keeping on. Schauberger predicted that if we didn't take care of the water, the first thing we would do is we would soon find ourselves with the bane of cancer and the bane of economic ills. And he said that in 1930. He predicted what we are facing today. He was the very first ecologist before the word was invented. The first thing he said was, we need to stop deforesting. We've got to recover our forests. He described various reasons why. But the main thing that he wanted us to do is to concentrate on water, and the way we get good water is reforestation. There are some very creditable books. The first one was written by Alec Bartholomew, who is a scientist. He's got very impressive Standard University credentials. So you can't just say that it does not have some scientific men looking at this theory.
And the title is?
It's Hidden Nature, The Startling Insights of Victor Schauberger. This, to me, is the best book for someone just starting the study of Schauberger. Things are most clearly explained in this book, and there are excellent photographs that help one understand the things that are being said.
Dan, you had something?
Yeah, Alec Bartholomew also helped publish Callum Coates, who is Living Energies, and several other books that he's wrote, Water Wizards and The Energy Evolution, and so forth. Alec helped.
The last title was The Fertile Earth.
The Fertile Earth, yeah.
And these
very good.
These are all by Coates?
Callum Coates, yes.
Okay.
Who was an architect who gave up his architecture to study exclusively Schauberger, and he has done so for, I believe, all his life. From that point, at least 20 years.
At least 20 years. And he was there at PKS in Austria, and he worked with Schauberger, with the son Walter Schauberger, both of them, and also now working with the grandson Jörg. And he's put a lot of this stuff into practice. A lot of it was theory, and of course I've put a lot of it in practice. He's put it in practice, and we're starting to see a lot more come around the world. People using this kind of technology, which is it's over. You know, well, if you look at nature, everything spins. Tornadoes, hurricanes, trees, planets,
particles.
That's right. If you look at a pine cone, it has a spin to it. If you look at a tree, it has a spin to it too. So anything has a spin. Everything that grows has some sort of spin also. And go ahead. Sorry.
There is alleged that at one point when Hitler tried to commandeer Schauberger into his nefarious practices. He asked Schauberger to come and explain it, but at the same time, there was Max Planck, who is a well-known physicist, considered a genius, after listening to some of Schauberger's ideas, said, nature and science have nothing to do with each other. And that is precisely what Schauberger wanted to emphasize, that you cannot study nature in a laboratory because you can never duplicate the systems. Exactly. You have to study nature by looking and studying nature. And that's the flaw of our culture, is we have not done that. Another important writer is Olaf Alexanderson.
Olaf Alexanderson, yeah.
And his book
Swedish.
is Living Water, which also is a good entry book to understand Schauberger.
This book is the first book I read and gave me the idea of doing what I'm doing with the vortex systems. I met Olaf in Sweden, and he has all of Schauberger's notes that he took day by day notes. And this man has taken that and made a book out of it, and they're trying to do a lot of other things with all of his notes. And of course, some of them are by the governments are saying, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. And then people like me come on, and we just do it.
I might add that you are a trained electrical engineer.
Yes, ma'am, electrical.
And you speak German? Do you speak
Yes.
other languages?
A little bit of French, and a little bit of German, a little bit of English, a little bit of Spanish.
Mr. Reese is mentioned in Alec Bartholomew's book as a resource to study. So now we have to ask ourselves, why does Schauberger have anything to do with us?
Okay, why did Schauberger have anything to do with us?
Because, and here I have to read this because I think what I say here is very insulting, but things that you people need to hear. And it's something I wrote.
Well, that's never stopped anybody on this show.
Dumping some bottles or newspapers in the recycle bin is a pathetic activity compared to what we will actually have to do in the 21st century to save the environment and thus our own lives.
And as near as I can tell, recycling in San Antonio itself is a pathetic activity not supported very much by the city government.
The first act can and must be what the recent winner of the Nobel Prize, Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Prize winner, has said, and importantly done. Plant a forest and keep planting a forest and keep planting a forest until the forest is returned to its original configuration in all the nations of the world.
She was the lady in Kenya that got the prize.
Yes,
yeah.
A phenomenal woman. If we must have houses, then we must have tree houses. Slight exaggeration, but not by much. The forest keeps the water mature, and Schauberger defines mature, and it's extremely complex and is more, well, I will delineate that further, and thus keeps us non-cancerous and healthy.
Well, at one time, in the middle of the age of mammals, the word for world was forest.
Was it?
The entire world was covered pole to pole, no ice, oceans, forest, that's it. This was the peak of the age of primates, because of course this was great for monkeys, apes, and anything like it. But then there was a climactic change, and grass, which was a new development, moved in and actually caused extinctions. So we're not the only living creature that caused extinctions. Grass did it too. Mm-hmm. And overtook the forest and created the plains that we now have. Well, we had until we plowed them up and took away all the topsoil.
The forest keeps the water at the temperature that is the highest carrying capacity of water. Just as our blood carries toxins to the liver for discharge at the proper temperature in our bodies, so water at the proper temperature can carry silt and toxins to the oceans. This temperature is maintained by the cooling of the forest along the banks of any waterway. Alas, my fine-feathered, coiffured, deodoranted, and perfumed fine, city, and country friends,
I think that's too many adjectives.
You have to do more than plop your Coke bottles in the recycling container. You must dirty up and labor up and fill your yards with trees and your streams with cooling waters, and stop cutting trees to clear land to build your palatial, overbuilt houses, shopping centers, and superstores.
Okay, let me.
And I make one thing here that Hugh's going to disagree with, and you even got to quit cutting cedar.
I'm allergic to cedar. Cedar must die. Now, getting back to this temperature thing, as you increase the temperature of water, it does a better job dissolving solids, but a poorer job absorbing gases. As you decrease the temperature of water, it does a better job absorbing gases than it does, but a poorer job of dissolving solids, which is why your coffee is hot and your Coke is cold to dissolve the carbon dioxide. And I can see where Schauberger is trying to find a point where it works.
Yeah,
where he wants it to be between those two possibilities.
Yeah, it's.
I even remember she's told me so many times, 4 degrees centigrade or
4
less.
degrees centigrade, yeah. That's the perfect, and
which would be about 40 degrees Fahrenheit,
That's
which
right.
is what the rest of us know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to work, if you're trying to balance between dissolving of gases and dissolving of solids, you're going to pick a point somewhere.
Well, the reason why it's important to have solids is if you want to keep your rivers clean and flowing and not be stagnant where they produce the bad bacteria we don't want in water, they need to be flowing, and the way you keep them flowing is having your rivers at 4 degrees centigrade so that it can carry the silt to the ocean instead of forming sandbanks and therefore causing the flow to stop and therefore causing the anaerobic bacteria. Did I explain that correctly?
That's right.
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
Anaerobic bacteria are those that do not need oxygen.
that's right, and they're
the
the most harmful ones.
Yeah, the most famous is botulism.
That's it. That's it.
By the way, Schauberger also said one of the worst things you can do to water is put chlorine in it to purify it.
And the other thing is straightening out streams. I see the Corps of Engineers always trying to straighten out a stream, straighten out a river. That's the worst thing you could ever do to a river.
Yeah, but it looks
Ever.
a whole lot better on the map, and you can draw this nice straight edge.
Of course, yeah. But it kills the river. They did that in Germany, and they straightened out the Rhine River in Germany, and very few fish live in there now, and it's very nasty.
Well,
nothing to clean it
Schauberger
up.
was railing about that
Yeah.
at the time when they began that process.
That's right.
He was telling them, no, don't do that.
Well, but that happens.
Yeah, but
Now-
it needed fixing.
Yeah, it needed to be straight. That's it.
We're going to go to poster 2, which I couldn't get big enough with my resources, so I'll kind of go over it. I hope that's
Yeah,
it.
the bottom is absolutely out.
Well, here, let me hold it up.
All
The
right.
bottom is out.
I will
The
go
print is
to-
way too
Oh,
This
way
is-
too small? Okay.
Yeah, see
This
that?
is from this book, Hidden Nature by Alec Bartholomew, where he explains the full cycle of water versus the half cycle of water. And then you'll notice, although you can't see the printing, you'll notice this is the half cycle of water, and there are a few things missing in there. And this is the full cycle of water that Schauberger says we need to keep ourselves cancer-free and our economic going, because, you know, when we're sick with cancer, we don't do very well economically.
That's right.
So the first step in the full cycle of water is evaporation from oceans and evapotranspiration from vegetation. And the half cycle has evaporation from oceans. You'll notice what's missing in the half cycle is the very important evapotranspiration from vegetation, which even cedar trees do, and that's why we should quit cutting cedar trees.
Yeah, but they produce that nasty pollen. That makes
And
them
they're
ill.
not and they're not native to Texas.
Well, when we plowed up the land and grew cotton and destroyed the topsoil and demineralized it,
Yeah.
there was an attempt by some entity, be it nature or
Most likely, nature didn't do it.
That was man.
Most of the invasive species got either brought here deliberately or accidentally.
well, nevertheless, the cedar tree has its place, and I will defend the cedar tree to my death.
We may have to
Okay.
talk about that.
Now, the next step, rising water vapor, both sides is there, and cooling and condensing is on both sides, and formation of clouds is on both sides, and precipitation is rain on both sides. However, the most important part in the full cycle is water infiltrates the ground under positive temperature gradient, and in the half cycle there is no infiltration due to a negative temperature gradient, and that's because we got forest on one side and no forest, even cedars, on the other side.
Well, in the Edwards Aquifer, it's worse than almost any other aquifer when it comes to infiltration. You empty a bottle of water at the front of that aquifer and it's in your sink, within hours, because it goes down through caves. So it never infiltrates anything.
That's right.
It just runs down the stream. You can go with these big holes in the middle of a stream, and when it's rain, it's like roaring, and this water is going down there. You can walk through the Edwards, if you're a caver, you can walk through the Edwards Aquifer. So there's no infiltration at all. When the PGA guys dump their lawn stuff on the lawn back there, it's going to be in your sink.
The thing that Schauberger emphasizes is you want your rainwater that's hitting the ground the same temperature as the ground, and that's what the forest does. It cools that rainwater, or makes the rain, warms the rainwater so that, and cools it.
No, it warms
I'm confused here.
No, you're right. It warms it to hit for the ground.
And the ground will absorb it.
That's right.
If it's not closely akin in temperature, it just runs off, and therefore we have flooding, which is a bane to humans because we don't like our shopping centers flooded.
Well, in this case, we don't even have the trees or the topsoil or the litter or anything to catch it.
That's right.
So we're not even anywhere near we haven't come close to what Mr. Schauberger would have wanted.
Right. And so the next step is recharge of groundwater in aquifers, which is on the full side. And on the half side, rapid runoff over the ground surface. It doesn't go into the Edwards Aquifer. It just runs off to the nearest Guadalupe or San Antonio or whatever river.
That works really well if you pave it.
Yeah. Maintenance and regulation of height of groundwater happens on the full. There's no groundwater recharge on the half. On the full is formation of positive 4 degrees center layer of the groundwater. And on the half, there's a sinking water table in the long term, which we know to be true. The full side is creation of underground retention basins. Nothing happens on the half. Passage through the 4 degree center layer of the groundwater, nothing on the half. Purification at this temperature, nothing on the half. Further sinking into the subterranean aquifers due to its own weight, nothing on the half. Transition to a vaporous state due to the influence of the Earth's hot interior. What he's saying is the water keeps, in the full hydrological water cycle, the water keeps going downward to where it gets to closer to the warm center part of the earth. And then once that happens, it rises again towards the ground surface with a simultaneous uptake of nutrients. It's bringing nutrients from the very deepest depths of the earth and rising up again, and therefore causing us to get healthy because our plants are going to get those heavy-duty nutrients.
In California, they're attempting to tap deep water, which is hot, and use it for energy production in the Salton Sea. It's what they call juvenile water. But this stuff is so loaded with minerals, they can't keep the pipe open.
That's right.
It's absolutely hopeless.
It calcifies up so fast.
Well, it's not just calcium, it's all kinds of crazy stuff.
Well, I know, but it's all, and I mean calcium calcified, I mean all the minerals just conglomerate right there.
Yeah, it's why you wait.
Yeah, there's a place here in Texas that has hot water coming out, and they have problems the same kind of. They have to cool the water down here too.
Then the last several 4 steps on the full cycle is cooling of the water and deposition of nutrients, draining away over the ground surface, evaporating and forming clouds, falling again is rain, and so on. And on the half cycle is cessation of natural supply of nutrients to vegetation, excessively fast re-evaporation, oversaturation of the atmosphere with water vapor, rapid reprecipitation is storm rain and flooding.
Okay, Carol?
Yes?
We've just had like the 5-minute come
Yes, so now we want to talk about the thing that you and I have had so many discussions about,
Oh, dear.
which is, did Schauberger actually create a flying saucer for the Nazis?
No.
That's right. He didn't.
You're getting opposed on both sides here.
Well, we don't know, but I think he probably did.
Well, when I was there, I saw that there was a guy that brought one of Schauberger's inventions, and it did look like a
Flying saucer.
sort of flying saucer.
But you recognized it for what it was,
Well,
right?
it was an energy generator.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
It was for use in a water system.
That's right. It was used for water to create energy.
Well, Schauberger said what is true for water is also true for gaseous substances, that is
That's true.
air. And
That's
so
true.
what works at the water level will also work for the gaseous level.
This is where you're going to find a lot of bad press on
That's right.
Schauberger, because there are a number of people who have used his name after his death to put together these stories. And in fact, in here, it talks about one of these guys who wrote all these stories about Schauberger's Nazi flying saucers. This guy is pretty much a neo-Nazi himself, and he used this stuff, the selling of these books, which he didn't actually believe anyway, in order to finance the books he wanted to finance, which is denying that the Holocaust ever really happened. This guy is one seriously bad egg.
And he said some very untrue things. I forgot the name of this gentleman.
I could look him up, but we don't have time.
Oh, well, anyway, it's not Nick Cook, who
No. It's this
Nick
guy's-
Cook is the James
This
Dickens
guy's
Weekly
got a
man
very German name.
who studied, tried to find out if Schauberger had created those types of UFOs. You know, are UFOs something that our black ops government is created, or are UFOs actually extraterrestrial? So that led me to a long study of UFOs, and I'm still involved in that, and it was fascinating.
Well, it's very simple. In order to do that, number one, you'd have to be organized. Number two, you'd have to be willing to accept things that don't match current science, and that leaves our government completely out, so I don't think you need to worry about it.
That's true.
Yes, everything, that leaves our final thing, which is, the one I wanted to show was the one where Schauberger's theories were proposed to British scientists, and this one.
This one?
And he says the scientists got together after the post-mortem of the conference and said, well, you know, if Schauberger's right, we'd have to rewrite every textbook that is written. And Schauberger does
Well, we're
certainly
doing that in
question
Texas.
those things.
We're doing that in Texas, but not in the direction you probably want.
Oh, no.
But a lot of Schauberger stuff is true, and a lot of the stuff, for instance, the Army has, the Army intelligence, when they when they got Schauberger, they got all of this information. Everything that he had, the Army intelligence has. I've tried getting some of it, but that is to no avail.
You remember the box at the end of Indiana Jones? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they do with that stuff. That's another reason we won't have flying saucers.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting down to the end here, and I thank you very much for your presentation on Victor Schauberger. I hope it inspires other people to go take a look at this guy for water and conservation purposes. This has been Hugh Henry for Freethought Forum, and thank you very much for tuning in.
I think as I please, and this gives me pleasure.
My conscience decrees, this right I must treasure.
My thoughts will not cater
To duke or dictator, no person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei, no